Okay. My name is Eli Aaron. I'm an urban planning student, and there are two issues I will be discussing: the city's Heritage Preservation Department and the overall 2017 city budget. The current state of heritage preservation services is an embarrassment to our city. As a volunteer of the North York Preservation Panel, I have witnessed this firsthand. Other cities have done an amazing job protecting their historical buildings. Here's how we do things in Toronto, or an example. In 2010, the Preservation Panel submitted heritage nominations for a few century homes in Lawrence Park. 7 years later, the heritage staff still haven't had time to review the properties. Some are now for sale, and it's too late to save them from demolition. So in Toronto, the main mechanism we are using to protect our heritage buildings is crossed fingers, and it isn't good enough. Council requested across-the-board cuts without consulting departments in advance. Eliminating the services Torontonians rely on are not efficiencies. Transit riders will be facing the 6th fare hike in 6 years, while they will be left waiting longer for more crowded vehicles. Council chose to ignore the city manager's advice to introduce a $120 vehicle registration tax, a fraction of the cost of a yearly Metro Pass, which is now $1,755. With the Fair Pass program not rolled out until 2020, we know this will be detrimental to our city's poor, as clearly stated in the committee's own equity briefing note. Mayor Tory said he ignored the city manager's advice to charge drivers because it would be, quote, divisive. But he and council seem to have no trouble standing behind an above-inflationary fare increase yet again. The argument for not raising property taxes as much as every other GTA municipality that we hear every year is that seniors and those on fixed incomes will be forced out of their homes. I understand this argument, which is why a graduated property tax system would be more effective. However, when Councillor Cressy proposed this at the December council meeting, the motion lost. This means councillors who say they are worried about seniors being forced out of their homes, well, I'm not sure that they really care that much. Are they only using it as an excuse to protect Toronto's millionaires who live in mansions and would be the most affected by this? Those millionaires, I guess they just can't afford to pay another penny while we throw the homeless out on the streets to meet the 2.6% slashing target. According to Housing Connection's most recent report, the affordable housing waitlist grew by 9,000 to over 179,000 people last year, while the repair backlog of TCHC surpassed $2.6 billion. This budget does next to nothing to address either of these issues. According to the Star, in 2015, the mayor did a press conference at a TCH building at Jane and Finch to announce TCHC improvements. A year later, those exact units are being boarded up because council's 2.6% slashing target doesn't leave enough money to repair them. This is the definition of hypocrisy. The subsidized childcare waitlist has grown by 7,000 since last year, and this out-of-touch budget provides exactly 0 new subsidized childcare spaces. Then there's the fact that breakfast programs for over 13,000 children in need are currently unfunded. Or the service change that would essentially see the city discontinue food production to Meals on Wheels and leave vulnerable Torontonians to starve. Your equity briefing note referred to this as dire. Some quick facts on our underfunded shelter system. Women's shelters, 100% capacity. Youth shelters, 100%. Men's shelters, 97%. Family shelters, 100% capacity. According to an exchange I witnessed at Budget Committee, it is very probable women escaping abuse can be turned away. And this is a department council wants to cut by 2.6%? I completely agree we need to spend money wisely. That means that the mayor's office should not be intimidating the chief planner in an attempt to maintain a congestion-inducing, archaic, rotting piece of 6-decade-old infrastructure, the Gardner. Maybe council shouldn't spend $3 billion on one subway station unless it's made with gold. So, to wrap things up, while the proposed budget includes only a modest property tax increase, it completely ignores TTC riders, who will pay an above-inflationary increase yet again. It spikes the cost of 8,400 daycare spaces, it spikes the cost of recreation programs, It closes emergency cooling centers. It leaves children to starve. It leaves vulnerable adults to starve. It leaves 19,000 parents waiting for childcare subsidies. It leaves TCHC residents to live in inhumane conditions. It leaves people in shelters waiting for subsidized housing. And it even forces the homeless to stay on the streets because all the shelters are full.
Thank you.
A city which approves this budget in its current form is not a city I can be proud to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eli. Questions? No? Thank you.